Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Just Be. Thank you for coming back. I think this is episode 18.
472.
We'll be there soon. Again, I'm John Emilio, as always, with the one, the only
On-air sign flashing, applause sign flashing, Henry Belton.
Wow, he used his real name this week.
Yes.
No drug cartel lawyer.
If you want, I can. Hey, they're only a little whistle away. I'll get them over here.
Oh my God! So we are back for another episode. Thanks everybody for coming back again. I don't know if anybody had a chance. I had a great interview, which was our first dab at video this past week.
That was Zoom.
It was a Zoom, but it works out as a video podcast. Anyway.
It worked great.
Yeah, Zoom is great like that because you just hit the record button, and when you're done with it, it saves an audio file on your desktop and a video file. It's like so good.
It worked great.
Yeah, it worked great. So if anybody didn't see, I think that'd be a great. It's a very informative interview I had with a therapist who I worked with personally and who is a great person overall. So if you haven't checked that out, it's gotten a few views actually. So it's been trending a little bit on our Podbean account. So if anybody hasn't, I suggest just take a listen to it. There's a lot of good information.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, there'll be more of those coming. There's sometime in April we're going to be sitting down with Shihan Chris Burrow, who is the owner of Elite Martial Arts in Marlboro. They have a couple of dojos, and this is where my daughter went and did her martial arts training until she got her black belt a couple of years back. We're going to be sitting down with him and kind of talking about, martial arts and mindfulness and stuff like that. He's going to be coming here to do it, so we'll be doing it.
That's great.
Yeah, we'll be doing it here. So anyway, some there'll be more good stuff like that coming along as we go on.
That is great. Now, if anybody missed the one with Dr. Tatiana, I highly recommend you see it because. First of all, you get a visual. You never get a visual of John. But you get a visual of John. But you also, it's like...
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I also...
My hair looked good that day, so it was not bad.
You had a good hair day?
I got a good hair day.
But Dr. Tatiana is, again, I never met her, but it's an incredible fountain of information that's just... It's delivered differently than the way we do,
you get more of a clinical explanation of what acceptance commitment therapy is and the major components of it. They give very scientific answers. Obviously, therapists is what they're trained for, as opposed to the words that we use, which are a little bit different. But it's six of one, half dozen.
But I think it's a great addition to what we do here. It's a great addition to kind of what you did there was you took it up a level. And, it's like I always say, we're at the ground floor. We're literally on the street level.
Yeah.
And that went up to the 10th floor and kind of brought you into what different things that you did to, tackle or address OCD. And I thought that was incredible. And,
she's a world of knowledge. As most therapists who deal with anxiety and OCD, who deal with acceptance commitment therapy. And we asked her in the interview, it's something that you can learn outside of therapy. And yes, it's while it's good to do, it's nice to do it with a therapist because they're skillful. But acceptance commitment therapy does not have to be done in a formal setting. That's the beauty of it because it's basically, and I said this in the interview with her, a scientific version of what mindfulness is. And she was like, absolutely. That's really, they just break it down into categories so people could understand it better. There's that portion of the population that I could say a certain word and it resonates and they understand it. And then there's a portion of the population that you say a certain word, well, they need it broken down a little bit better because the way their mind kind of approaches something is everybody know your audience, right? We're talking about everybody's different. So we could be saying something, a certain way, and a certain amount of people might understand what we're talking about. And then there's going to be that other portion of our listening audience who might be like, yeah, I kind of get it, but like, I don't understand this, who I am, and I'm not my mom. Like, I don't understand. And act kind of, well, we're going to show you how you get there by telling you about your values, about expansion, about diffusion, about acceptance. And like that worked for me. Like I kind of thought I understood what it meant, and I say it in the book when I was talking about Eckhart Tolle. There was that one line, like, "If I am not the voice, if I am not the one who's speaking, then who am I?" You know, and that kind of resonated with me, but it always left me like with a question mark. Like, I understand, but then my mind would come back in. I kept trying to think about it. Where acceptance commitment therapy, when I kind of learned about it in therapy, and then I read a book. I'll say this term blue in the face, Happiness Trap by Dr. Russ Harris, and she even agreed. She goes, probably one of the best books written about ACT. He explained it so well with such great examples that all of a sudden I started going like this as I was reading the book. And I all of a sudden levels and doors started opening up where I started to understand things better, and more portals were kind of opening up. So everybody has their own point I'm trying to make is their own learning curve with things, the way their mind approaches it. So I thought we thought that was a great way to do it, and kind of get that.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
We're like instruments. So if I'm a guitar, but you're trying to piano me, I'm not going to really...
Trying to tickle your keys?
Right. You're trying to tickle my keys. And I'm not going to really give you that guitar tune.
Absolutely.
But that book for you was... You're a guitar,
yes.
and that book knew how to strum you, and you're like, I get it.
Yeah.
And
that's why it doesn't work for everybody the same way.
So check this, and how my mind, works. I'm a little freaky like that. I'll come at you from different angles, and I'll connect dots that you're like, oh my God, I didn't even see that coming. Okay. She said something, Dr. Tatiana said something really beautiful. I'll let you finish it, but when she said that this is like a dish, the pasta and the sauce, and that ACT is the sauce.
Is the sauce,
bro?
Yeah. In the beginning of the interview, I said for me it was the cherry on top of my sundae.
Yes.
So.
But the sauce is perfect because it's enveloped everywhere.
Exactly.
It's all over, but it's not the pasta.
It's not the pasta.
Holy shit!
Yeah, but that was a great way to put it. It is. It's like the sauce on top. So it's. So you still have the pasta, you still have the heart of it, the main ingredient, but this just kind of makes it that much better. And that's what ACT was for me. I think, like I said, when I was doing my ERP, which is exposure response prevention, which was huge for OCD.
Yep.
It's the gold standard. It helped me acclimate. Okay, so I got this great foundation, but I still have to build a house. ACT allowed me to kind of just put floor on top of floor on top and continue to go up and move, where you kind of need that foundation. Now, again, everybody's different. So everybody gets there in their own time. There's no one formula for any of this. But ACT is the one that I think you could sprinkle. It could be the sauce on any kind of pasta. Whatever your base is, you could put this on top. That's what I love about it. It's applicable to everything in life.
And I just love...
Not just one thing.
I love to hear her, a professional. Again.
Absolutely.
A professional could mean many things for you. A doctor could tell you something and you're like, screw him. Okay, got it. But for me, like hearing from her that it can be an informal thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the way we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That it can be, and it's perfectly fine. Matter of fact, it's beneficial. And she even complimented you on your keep pushing, keep going. Keep on making people more aware of.
Well, yeah, with the book and all that other stuff and the podcast.
Dude, for me, that's great. I mean, I found it to be super. Let's say when somebody, I know in Spanish, apoyo. It means supportive.
Yeah. So I'm if anybody hasn't listened to it, it's great. It's only like 30 minutes, right? So we tried 35 minutes. We tried to keep it. We did there's a ton of information, and when we hung up and we were done with the call, and we talked for a few minutes, off if I stopped recording it. She's like, wow. She goes, we just went through a lot of information. Yeah. She goes, we could have gone longer. I'm like, yeah, no, we could have probably.
Yeah. No, and that proved to me, and I get it. I'm a little different. Like, I want to know. Like, I want this. So it's different. For me, it was a short 35 minutes.
Yes.
For somebody else, be like, oh my God. So whoever you are, however how you
interpret it, it's up to you.
But what I came away from this is, you could have a university course on this.
Oh, there is.
There is?
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, a university? You mean like in a university itself? I don't know if there is. I know there are. I mean, there are ways you could do it online. There are classes you could take on ACT, but like in the university, maybe in psychology, I'm sure. So
It's-
if you're a psychology major, I'm sure there's
but
courses about.
you're right. If you're a psychology major, but I'm not trying to learn it to teach it because I want to be a psychologist major.
It should be taught. Well, I asked her in the interview. I said, "Can this be taught to children?"
And she said yes.
Yes.
And she said that
She
the way
goes-
you do it is by just hinting at it.
Hinting at it, dropping seeds at it. She doesn't know what age would be appropriate because no studies have been done on teaching kids. But it's not about teaching kids like a formal version of ACT. It'd be almost like, well, drop little seeds as young as they are, like the Hershey Kiss. I talked about that Hershey Kiss.
Did you ever talk about it
Here?
on here?
No, I don't know if I ever did.
Because that is a great story,
Right?
And you talked about that story
In the book.
you talked about it with her
on the interview. Yeah. How you unwrap her. So basically, to be real quick, to those who haven't heard the interview, one of my first, maybe my second, probably my second or third at best, session with her. She had a bowl of Hershey Kisses next to her on the desk. She goes, "John, do me a favor. Can you take one of those candies?" I mean, I'm stressed and anxious right now sitting around because everything was still very fresh to me.
So you had no idea what you were going to do.
Oh, I mean, why is this fucking lady telling me to eat candy?
Okay.
That was the thought I had in my head.
That's the
why is this freaking lady asking me to eat candy?
What's going on here?
Whatever. She goes, but then she tells me to unwrap it. She goes, and she keeps reminding me as I'm doing it. She goes, "Don't describe what's happening." She goes, "I want you to feel and notice. Unwrap it." She goes, "I want you to hold the candy in your hand." She goes, "Do you notice how it feels? Does it feel warm? Does it feel hard? Is it getting softer? Does it feel, sticky?" She goes, "Whatever labels come up, let them go. I want you to notice." And she goes, "Put the candy in your mouth." She goes, "Notice." And she kept using the word notice, which I didn't realize at that time. Notice how it feels in your mouth. Notice that the texture of the candy. Is the candy melting? Notice if there's a taste to it. Notice this, notice that. And then we were finished. And she really didn't say anything. Then we kind of went into our session. But as time went on, there was more of those little things, like the white noise machine. And I would ask her. And I started noticing that she was teaching me how to notice things without labeling them and creating a story around it. So for a kid, like something like that's great.
Yep.
Like tell the kid, the youngest kid, "Hey, do me a favor. Grab this. I want you to just feel it in your hand. Notice what it feels like. Don't worry about don't worry about what your mind's telling you, and just notice it. And it's bringing the sensation of whatever you're asking them to do. Short little ones like that, here and there, and you start to make little, little bookmarks in their mind that to notice and not immediately label and want to describe.
You make new pathways, I think.
Well, you do. Yeah, you do. And the point is, we could teach children at a young age to know to be aware of their thoughts and their minds and not believe everything that they think. Not be this is what my mind says. So this is what reality actually is. To be open to and they're going to have as they grow up, you're going to teach them to have a very flexible mind, and that's the key. The key is, if a mind is rigid and stern, a mind is going to suffer, a mind is going to be in pain, and that person is unfortunately, going to be stuck in this hellhole for as long as
the mental prison.
The mental prison. That's a great one, the mental prison. But if you teach a person to have a more flexible mind, especially at a young age when they're, there's that age where kids are learning, when their mind's a sponge.
It's the perfect time.
It's the perfect time to drop them, not to force feed it to them, because then you're teaching them to be a certain way. It's to teach them these little nuggets of awareness.
Well, like a language.
Like a language.
When do you learn languages better?
Yes.
Early.
Right?
I mean, the reason you speak Italian.
It's because I learned it when I was 3-4 years old.
And then you're able to speak English, no problem.
Yeah.
So I only spoke Spanish. And then I went to school not knowing English. So as a 5-year-old, you're lost. But how long are you lost for?
No, yeah, like that.
Then that's it. First grade,
Done.
And that is probably the same thing.
No, we try to teach our kids instead.
Well, honestly, at that moment, we were unconscious. And we didn't know any better.
We didn't. And there still is a very large portion of the population that they still bring. Our children are still brought up, especially in this side of the world, where they're brought up to be doers, with no awareness of how they're doing what they're doing.
Do achieve.
Not doing is important, but how are you doing that thing, right? I speak about this in the book, Doing and Being. How are you doing that task? How? There's a how. The how is the source, right? The how is like this. That how is whether you're going to enjoy what you're doing, whether there's going to be an ease to what you're doing, or whether it's going to be hard and painful and tough. And that's why teaching kids at a young age would be
I mean, dude, you just
an absolutely phenomenal.
You just wrapped up like 20 concepts into one. We were talking before the show.
That's why you should pick up the book. It's
honestly, like we were talking before the show. I was talking about
shameless drop.
I was talking about the difficulties of being an entrepreneur in business and trying to maintain a mindfulness mindset and how they can conflict and how you feel about it.
Sure.
And then we're talking about, things about, my sons and different things, the obstacles. And you just covered everything in like 2 sentences because everything is intertwined.
So you see how simple it is when you get to the end of it to realize 2 sentences or 4 words encompasses it all. But sometimes when you start with those 2 or 4 words, people don't get there.
Yeah.
And they need breakdown to understand how to get there.
Because you're playing the guitar like a piano.
Because you're playing the guitar like a piano, yes. So you need to kind of, explain it. And this is where spiritual teachers lose people sometimes, is there's really not much explanation. It's just a knowing and a feeling and an awareness, and that's where they leave it. And some people need a little bit more, right? Some people need, and that's why I'll say it again. That's why I think ACT is so phenomenal, because it explains, for me, and in my experience, and I said this to Nikki and she agreed with me, it explains Eastern spiritual teachings. Like it explains it. It explains how the Buddhist mind works, how the Zen mind works. It's those 4 or 5 principles, of acceptance, of diffusion, of expansion. It's those things that give you a little bit more insight to how the mind works. And all of a sudden, it just, like you go from having those blinders, your blinders get taken off, and those, oh wow, like you could see everything so differently. And just then the way you act, the way you live life, like everything changes. Everything just changes.
It's almost as if this way of being is, number one, I would say, the most powerful thing that's going to get you through modern society, modern day. It helps,
especially nowadays where life moves at such a rapid race.
But at the same time, it conflicts with the way we live in America, or the way we do things.
Yes, it's starting. There's a very small proponent of the population that's starting to want to go that way. It's not very well received. But
like I take this.
Remember the hippies?
Yeah.
I didn't live in that era. I wasn't brought up in this. I don't know exactly what the mentality. From what I've read and from what I've heard, they were. It was a very spirit. And there was a lot of. I get it. Like a lot of
smoking the herb.
A lot of herb going around. But besides that, there was a lot of spiritual. It was a big spiritual push during that age, right? There was a lot of spiritual mentality of. And then the mind will come in and take that and run with it anyway. But it's happened at points where people try to kind of awaken, but...
Well, barring the hippie movement thing, and knowing that every country, so it means everywhere you go, every country has a government. And every government is going to do what they do.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I compare the philosophy of mindfulness, or the way of being of mindfulness, to and I plug it into modern day America, and it just like it's not going to be something that flows right in. It's going to be something that kind of goes against what you're seeing. So I take that and then I say, now let's go the other way. Look at the society. I believe it was a town in Japan or a village in Japan.
It's a very mindful culture. Very moral.
These people
culture,
were living way into the 100s, like year old. You know what I mean? So they were known.
Life expectancy in Japan is much higher than here.
They were known for having this long life. And then you go into and see how they live, and it's completely different than the mess we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I do label it a mess, because over here it's like, to make a car reference, it's burn rubber And it's, if the day has 24 hours and you haven't burnt rubber for 24 hours, you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. It's hard. Work hard. Do everything hard. Harder. And that's been the mentality here, and that's how people were brought up, and that's why there's a lot of people nowadays who are silently suffering because they were told to, and through no fault of the people who brought them up or the teachers or the things that they learned or parents. This isn't about that because you only know what you know.
Well, that's again,
and the beauty is when you say all I know is I don't know. Well, that's when you open yourself up to everything, and that's when you have more of this universal approach to the world, and you're willing to see things differently. You're willing to hear things differently. We weren't brought up in that time. We were brought up in a time where we were told, just go. Yes, and there's great benefits for it, right? The country does well, and the economy does great, and people have tons of jobs. That's all well and good, but you could still do those things.
I think you could,
Sure you can. You can have a very high-functioning society with conscious human beings in it. That just means that, hey, maybe you could burn rubber and make this, or you could drive, or you could cruise at a certain speed limit, taking care of people around you, being more conscious of what's going on around you, and be very successful anyway. And you have added benefits because now you I'm going to say infect, but you're going to infect the people around you with that same mentality instead of just blowing by them and saying, screw you, I got to get to the top. I got to be the best. I got to be better than you. And not that competition is bad. It's healthy if it's done the right way. If it's approached, again, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. I could want to be a CEO of a company and want to be a millionaire. I could say I want to, I want to run this company because maybe something I enjoy doing. I want to be good at it. I want to get this product out because I think it's a great product for people. You could still do that, but how you do it is different. The how is the important part. How you approach that job. Are you approaching it where you're burning yourself out, stressing yourself out, where if you don't meet this, it's a failure. If this doesn't happen, it's a failure.
Yes.
If that mark's not hit, it's a failure. Or do you approach that business where you consciously say, I want to get there, but how I'm doing it is going to be more important than what than the what. I don't need to be, if I'm not the best, I'm not a failure. Was my journey a conscious journey? Did I run a conscious company? Did I help my employees? Did I make lives for people around me better? Was my product beneficial to the people that I sold it to, and not just trying to make a profit? It's not just about a profit margin. And I think that's a little bit of the world we live in, where it's about a profit margin and not about, well, what are we actually doing? How are we actually doing the thing that we're doing? And that's, I think, the point you were trying to get to. Where,
well, how I think you've heard a lot of people say how this human experience is all one big experiment, right?
Yeah.
So if it all is one big experiment, and we've been using, in an experiment, you change conditions, you change your stimulus. Well, I'd like to see this experiment run with more mindfulness, and let's see. If
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is an experiment anyway. Well, we've added, screeching tires. Great.
I agree.
And if it were possible, and humans can affect the laws of physics, you would see 25-hour days, 26-hour days, 27-hour days, 8-day weeks. Because this is how we do it, right? More, to the point that you blow up.
You're not great. And that all circles around one thing: a loss of living in the present moment, because you're always focused on the next moment. It has to be better. It can be better. But then when it is better, well, it could still be better. And then when it is better, it could still be better. And your life is always lived. Everything comes full circle. Your life is always lived in the next moment. And, well, then I got this. Well, can I get that? Well, I made this, but now can I get to that level? Well, I got to this level, but now can I get to that level? Well, hold on a second. Have you appreciated getting to any of the levels you've gotten to?
Yeah.
No. But when I get there, that's when I'm going to appreciate it. Are you really? So let's make believe you got to that level. You're going to appreciate. Are you really going to appreciate now being at that level? 20 years have gone by. You've burnt relationships and you've ruined lives, but you've gotten to that level now. Now? No. Now you're going to, because the mentality doesn't change.
It's already an algorithm.
Yes, it is. It becomes an algorithm.
It's already an algorithm.
That doesn't change. the change doesn't, that you could, again, same cone, different. I tell my son this all the time. It's the same cone, different flavor ice cream. Doesn't make a difference what the thing is. If that how is not done properly, it doesn't matter what that thing is. School, work, physical appearance, working out, test scores, no matter what it is, if your how is always, it has to be better, it can be better, I'm never satisfied where it is, and that negative self-talk comes back in and, well, yeah, it's not as good as it should be.
Your algorithm is just a negative.
Your algorithm, yeah, but if you, that's a great, I like that. So the algorithm, because algorithms are the way we live our lives nowadays, or not the way we live our lives, but influence our lives, I guess.
Yeah.
Through everything that we interact with technology. If your how, which is your algorithm, is like that, so where is your peace? Where do you actually enjoy the present moment? When are you actually living life? When? When are you living your life? Then? The next moment? The next friggin' moment? The moment after that? When are you living your life? Where?
So the next moment after that is the future. And you said in the past,
yes.
In the future, I wanted this.
Yes.
Well, yesterday's future is today. Right?
Yesterday's future the future never happens. You realize that, right? The future never happens. The only thing that happens is this moment now. I'm pounding like Khrushchev. I'm pounding the table. The only thing that happens is this moment. The next moment never. It doesn't happen in the future because the future is always the next moment. And if that's where you're living your life, if that's what your how is, if your how is always, it's got to be better, well, you'll get to the end of the road and you'll think you lived a great life, maybe. I don't know. But you'll be like, were you ever there for any of it?
Yeah.
Well, I've accomplished a lot of things. Okay, it's great. Accomplishing goals is phenomenal. I'm a big fan of accomplishing goals. I have things I try to accomplish all the time. Sure. But I don't lose touch with where I am right now. Because if that goal isn't accomplished for some reason, because money goals aren't, we all have lofty goals in life. But if it's not achieved, is it a failure?
Yeah, I mean, what, are you going to go hang yourself?
No, it's like, okay, well, that didn't happen, or I didn't get that. I wanted this, or I wanted it to be this way instead of that way. And I think coming back full circle, I think that's where I was saying maybe teaching kids in this country would be important to teach them the values of ACT. Even if you don't want to teach them ACT, specifically, but just the values, the components of it, to teach them how their mind works. Dr. Stephen Hayes, who's the founder of Acceptance for Commitment Therapy, gave a TED Talk. I forgot what university it was, and you could probably look it up. If I find it, I'll post it. Where he was talking to these brilliant, I'm talking like the 1%
right.
of the kids. And he gave a great speech about ACT and about if they don't hit the brakes. He gave them a car analogy. It's a whole thing. I'm kind of summarizing it. Where if they don't hit the brakes, they eventually are going to break. And the thing is, most people don't know how to hit the brakes with the mental mind stream. When the mind stream, they don't know how to hit the brakes. And when I say hit the brakes, I know that sounds forceful, but it's not. It's not meant to be forceful.
Right. It's just,
but they don't know how to actually slow.
A reduction in velocity versus hitting a brick wall.
Yes.
And we don't want you to hit a brick wall.
And that's the point he was trying to make. Instead of slamming it, where a lot of young kids have these breakdowns, right?
Yes. Especially in that area.
In that area, because they're under so much pressure.
Absolutely.
He was trying to show them how to not take their mind so seriously. The intelligent mind is a great thing. But the intelligent mind isn't who you are. It's not the one calling the shots. And the thing is, that's a lot of people fall into the perception that, well, my intelligent mind is the one that tells me to do everything, so that's who's in charge. No. And that's where, ACT and mindfulness and awareness all comes in, because it's that silent guidance that shows you how to use this tool. Anyway, so getting back to teaching kids would be...
Yeah. Sauce. So we're talking about sauce.
Sauce. No, teaching the kids would be a phenomenal thing. Teaching kids about acceptance and stuff like that would be.
Yeah. So I have
beneficial.
3 kids. I would love nothing more than to have them acquire this skill. And
they already have it. They just got to realize that it's there.
You may be right, but
everybody has it.
Okay. Well, then I practice the skill.
Exactly. You're not looking for it because you have it. You just have to realize that you do have the skill.
I would love nothing more, because it really does give you a perspective that you're blind to. It's weird. You're blind to this perspective if you haven't been exposed to it. If nobody tells you what mindfulness is or what to look for, you're blind to it. And I think today more than ever, we have no choice. But I mean, we do have a choice. I mean, I could always go live in Spain. I guess I'm a Spanish citizen too. But at the same time, we live here. This is where our family is. This is where life happens. And it's a rat race right now. It's a very high stress, high paced world.
Absolutely.
And it's it's tending to consume people. As you see, there's more drug consumption than ever. There's alcoholism. There's suicides. There's a whole host of things that is breaking people. And I don't think anybody wants to have these ailments, but
Of course not.
I think this is how society is dealing with the speed of life and the things that come at you every day. It's tough. There's single parenthood, there's bad economy. So the whole host of things that it's making life difficult for people. And if you don't have this perspective to kind of, as you say, slow down and hit the brakes, and you don't have to feel like a failure, because your bar is moving every day too. You move the goalpost every day, so
Yeah, and that's the goals, the bar, the goalpost, whatever you want to call it. Everything constantly shifts in life and changes, so you have to be. If you're flexible enough, and you move with them, well, that's where you avoid all that pain and all that,
And that's the point. And that's the part.
That's the part, yeah.
To be able to avoid or manage the suffering and the pain, so to have your experience, as going back to the experience and the experiment, here be a pleasant one, as opposed to an anguish-filled one, which today is so easy. Literally, you wake up, and this little crap right here, holding my phone, will bring in the anguish for you. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go outside your door. We're going to bring it right to your.
We'll bring it to you. And if you don't have the wherewithal to realize what its purpose is, and you get sucked and you get caught into it, and you go down that rabbit hole with it.
Well, here we are. What's the first thing you do? Boom, Facebook. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, these are all my friends who are in front of their mansion, in front of their Ferraris, in front of their thing. Oh, they're at an office party where they're being awarded. Oh, I don't have an office party awarding me.
Well, and if you don't have that awareness, that negative self-talk or that negative mentality, a lot of times it's just because of things you were brought up in, the way you were taught to survive as a kid. There's a lot of reasons why it's there, but it doesn't matter why it's there. You don't need to. There's no reason for you to have to listen to it, because that negative self-talk, and we said this before the show, is no different. And I think it was episode 2 or 3 or 4, we spoke about the ego, where it's no different than that positive self-talk that says, well, I'm the best and I'm great. Because eventually what swings that way is going to swing back the other way. Some people tend to be more on the negative side, where they think they're never good enough. Things are never good enough for them.
But it's when you believe it.
It's when you believe it, because you believe in everything you think. I look at my mind as just a computer that spits out information at me. And when it's being negative of me, when it's being negative of something I did or something I said, or I don't know, oh, my book only sold so many copies so far, why is it only doing this? Or my book sold this many copies, that means I'm great. Whatever my mind's doing, I don't take it seriously one way or the other.
It can be dismissed.
It's not that I dismiss it. I hear it, I observe it, and then I make my conscious choice on how to live my life from there anyway. I'm not going to make my thoughts that my mind is this, or my mind says this. If that was the case, I would have pulled the book like before I even published it. I honestly would have, because I'll tell you, my mind was like, oh, John, who's going to want to read this?
Second guessing.
Yeah. Oh, this is the worst. Oh my God, this doesn't make sense. What am I doing? What is it? So, and then other days there was, wow, this is great and this is the best. And so I don't listen to either of them. I live by, I want to get this, so I use the book as an example. I want to get this message out.
Yeah.
I don't need to be New York Times bestseller.
Sure,
we're going to use that as an example, right? Sure, that'd be great.
Right.
But even if I want to say that's my goal, let's just say, right? To get it like, wow, like, no, okay. But if it doesn't reach there, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is every day I get it out, every day somebody else reads it, every day it helps a person. Okay, that's great. For me, it was the process of writing the book, of getting the book out, of getting a message out. That's it. And now enjoying it every day and being present with it every day. And if somebody wants to speak about it every day, if 50 years from now it sells 1 million copies or if it sells 100 copies, that is what it is. I'm not going to judge my success by that.
Yep.
I'm not going to judge my success, my ultimate success by that. Yeah, you could say you could judge your financial success by that, maybe, I guess, but not my ultimate life success. Yep. It's not going to be judged by that, because if I listened to everything in my head, I never would have wrote the book. I never would have started this. We never would have started this podcast. Yeah. I wouldn't, post stuff. I would have just said, I'm going to sit here and just enjoy the present moment. But meanwhile, my brain was just saying, no, because just stay here. It's safer here.
It was your book. It was that sentence that I read when you said, well, if I listen to my negative thing, I wouldn't have written this book. No. I wouldn't have done anything to help, because who are you? What makes you so qualified?
Yeah, you're right.
When you go down that rabbit hole,
Yeah, but I agree.
At the end of that rabbit hole is you hanging from a tree because you're not worthy of living.
You're not worth. Yeah.
I'm like, what? But no,
it's not taking. If people take everything, and this is where it's important. Again, getting back to, I think the heart of today's episode is why getting to young kids.
Yes.
And getting them that message at a young age, instead of teaching your kids, you could teach your kids to want to be the best at something, right? And this is where there's a big misconception. Like, there's a misconception with what acceptance really means. Like, acceptance doesn't mean, oh, okay, I accept that this has happened. And okay.
Yep.
No, acceptance means this is happening. Like actually, this is happening. Whatever it might be. Work, life, health. This is happening. It sucks. I don't have to like it. I move forward from here. I'm here in this present moment. I'm going to ground myself in what's happening, instead of going down the rabbit holes of why it should be better than it is. Acceptance is empowering. It's not a negative thing. And that's the connotation that acceptance has when you say, well, just accept it. And be like, oh, that means I'm giving up. No, people who truly understand what acceptance and surrender actually means, like what it really is, it is the most empowering thing in the world, because it frees you from the stories in your head. It frees you from everything that tells you why things are the worst and why things can't be better. You say, this is how it is. And for whatever reason, this is what's happening to me right now. I wholeheartedly accept it. Again, not liking it. Yeah. Nobody says, like, oh, I feel great and I'm joyful. This is happy and no. But I move on from here. Yeah. There's an empowerment there that propels you forward to move in the way of your values, to move in the way that you want your life to go. That silent, that silent intelligence, that mindfulness, that presence, our consciousness kind of pushes us a certain way, and you move down that path, and where it goes, it goes.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words.
It is.
It really is, because unless you practice it and then you experience it.
Exactly. That's
when you practice it and experience it, you can try to tell the next person what you've just experienced and that you should practice it. But they're not going to be able to see it until they experience it and they practice it. It's hard to really explain. But when Dr. Tatiana said during the interview, no, and you said it, and she agreed, that it's empowering.
Mm-hmm.
It is 100% empowering.
Sure.
And I don't want to touch on any particular topic, but I could think of one. And it may be, as I say, risky to even talk about it, but I'm going to say something.
Uh-oh.
No, seriously. Because I like to dance with the devil.
You like to piss off YouTube?
Yeah, sure. But, John, honestly, look,
yeah,
there are a lot of scarring events in people's lives. So you had OCD. That's very scarring. What you've lived through, what you've been through, it's a scarring, emotionally scarring thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm following you.
But that's one level of scarring.
Okay.
And then there's people, you've been raped. Okay?
Yeah,
young lady has been raped.
Unfortunately happens.
And unfortunately, that story is probably more prevalent than we like to let on.
Absolutely.
Mindfulness taken into the mind of a person who has suffered from this.
A trauma. You're basically saying, okay, a real life trauma.
Right. So, I have come across people and have been around people that have had this trauma. And when I tell you it's such a trauma that you literally mention it, and you see the demeanor change. You see the face change.
Because you take them back to that event.
Yes. And obviously, it came up in conversation, and nobody did anything on purpose, but you see the physical trauma come back. And mindfulness taken to that level is you saying the acceptance method is not just saying, "Well, I surrender, that's it." No, it's for you to have the ability to say, "The trauma has happened, but it's empowering for me to decide how I move with my happiness."
So you're saying you don't identify with that trauma.
There it is. So I gave it hair, but you're exactly
no, but that's why I kind of not that I let you talk, but that's why I was kind of like I wanted to hear exactly where you're going. Is from what I'm hearing is, and that's so true, especially with people who have real life traumatic events like unfortunately rape or death. Or
I mentioned
illness.
One.
Look, it could be
that's a touchy.
That's
one.
a touchy one. Sure.
Nobody even wants to mention it.
No, and it happens unfortunately. But like any other real life traumatic event or generational traumatic event, where it could be to a race of people or a religion, because there's no shortage of that in this hectic world.
Yeah,
either.
You can go back to anything.
I mean anything. There's people carry this trauma with them and they identify with, well, this happened to me, and yes, it did happen to you, and it's horrible what happened, and it's unfortunate what happened. But now you have a choice.
Oh my God, yes.
Is that who you want to be? And in psychology or in therapy, it's, there's actually, I mean, I don't know what the exact term is, but it's like a trauma identification where you become this victim identity.
Yes.
I think that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
So, but people don't realize that they deploy that constantly. And fortunately, people who do end up in therapy with a skilled therapist, they alert them to that, and they show them that these people are actually just believing this is who they are because that's what happened to them. So like you just said about me, use me as an example, right? The OCD trauma or scar, you said scars.
Yeah.
So in my mind, not my mind, in my global life, in my world, the way I see it, there is no scar.
No, because you've transcended that.
Yes, there is no scar from the OCD. I look at it and go like this. That was an experience that I had.
Yeah, you transcended that.
I had an experience from that. No, but it's important that you said that word scar, because a scar means that I look at it and there it is. Yeah. Look, there it is. There it is. Every time I look at that scar, it reminds me what you did to me, what happened to me, how this affected me. No. My scar is healed completely. The event is there. I remember it wholeheartedly.
And you're kind of proud of it too, right? Like, kind of proud of. Listen.
I'm not proud of it, but I accepted that I needed to go through that to be where I am today in my life. That was a growth for me. It was something that I needed to experience. I'm not going to answer why, because I don't know why. Mm-hmm. I don't know why the universe asked me to go through that, right? Because people will hear this and they'll be like, "Oh, so you're saying going through OCD is a good thing?" And no, that's not what I'm saying.
That's
but because people who are identified with their experiences, especially whether it's, and I'll speak for something that I experienced, like obsessive compulsive disorder. People who experience OCD don't want to hear. It's hard for them to hear that, well, I went through it and there was a reason why I went through it. There was a reason why I had that had to happen. But because I've gotten to maybe a point, like you said before, I kind of I transcended it. But it could be very triggering for some people. Yeah. But so when I say I don't have a scar from it. Do I remember what happened? Vividly.
Right.
Do I remember all my sessions? Vividly. Do I remember the first time I had that thought and how I felt? Vividly.
Right.
But I watch it and I just don't say that's who I am.
Yeah, you're not attached.
It was something that happened. It happened at some point, but where am I right now?
Yeah.
It's the past. I don't know what it's going to be like. Like I'm here now. Like, and that makes what's behind me and what's in front of me float away.
And
that's where I kind of lock in this.
That's empowering. That's where you're empowering. That's what I wish upon everybody who's suffering. That empowerment. That misconception you were talking about acceptance. Well, okay, I accept it. No, that's not what that means.
Like, by the way, saying I accept it is an acceptance, right?
Right.
I accept this has happened. All right.
So, and the reason I think that we even touch upon this is because, again, coming back to what we always talk, because there's not a loss of idiots in modern day. there's not a loss of somebody who's going to say.
Since man started walking upright, there hasn't been a loss of people like that.
Honestly, there's not a loss of somebody who's going to just come try to piss on your parade. Be like, just by that comment alone, you should practice it, because if you did, that comment wouldn't come out of your mouth. Like, that's a very unconscious way of being. That comment alone is just representing of how asleep most of these people are.
Absolutely.
And it's tough to put out a good message. It's tough to, as you go through life, and this is kind of go back to a few episodes ago, where as you go through life and you want to push this live, you want to push this in real life.
Yeah.
To your friends and peers and family members. And I use the word push. And the only way to be is, as you said, is just.
Oh, you were, yeah.
Right, just be a reflection.
A reflection, yeah.
And,
it's that whole kill them with kindness, right? It's something like that. It's not exactly, but it's that whole thing.
It comes back to that. And it's just because there would be, again, this experience, this experiment would be a little different if this were to catch on and all of a sudden people are infected, as we said before the show, infected with, this mindfulness.
But what makes you think it's not catching
on?
So not globally yet, but so in your world around you, in your macro, what would it be? Macro,
you know what? That's a good question.
In your little world,
that's
in the world, in
where I work and whatever.
So I could say, from day one to now, have I seen a difference? Yes. Have I seen where everybody around me is like that? No, obviously not. But I've seen a difference in a lot of people who I interact with.
That's a big
over time. Oh, hold on. And I know we don't, past and future, but since I started this journey and the people I've interacted with, I've seen a difference. And I'm hoping that the difference I see in them becomes strong enough in them or bright enough in them that they could take it to the people around them.
That's a huge observation.
And I mean, by the way, this isn't something that I'm starting, right? I mean, it's the guys like Eckhart Tolle and started, all these spiritual teachers, Sadhguru Ram Dass, Thich Nhat Hanh. They've been doing this, these Dalai Lama. This is a mentality that's been around for eons, and they've infected the people around them. The problem is, at some point, that it stopped growing, and another stronger disease started pushing the other way. Our goal is to try to, reignite. If you could reignite the people around you, your 10, let's just say 10, right?
Right.
And each of those 10 people could
circles.
reignite their circles, and then their circles, and then their circles. It exponentially can start growing that way again, but it takes
time.
It does take a little bit of actual time to do it to get from one person to another. But the only way you could start is by being that example. Not by, like we said this before, right? Not by, you got to do this.
Yeah.
Do it my way. I know better than you.
Yeah. Well,
because then that's just ego going, screw you, spiritual ego.
And it's not.
I don't know why I'm doing a pirate voice either, but
You'll do what I say, matey.
Nah, but so I don't do it like that.
No, I know. I'm not saying you.
But
I'm
it's like the good bad guy. It's like,
yeah.
Hey, you're gonna do this because it's good for you. Look, and this is for your betterment. No. Well,
we said that, and not to get back into that, but we said that 2 episodes ago that doesn't it doesn't work. And I've noticed that when I just kind of sit around people, and then people want to talk about something, and or you just show them how how they're acting, you act as a mirror, and they see their reflection in you, and all of a sudden that person realizes how they're acting. Like, my father read my book, right? I don't know if you saw the post. Beautiful. By the way,
I love the post.
This is an 81-year-old. He'll be 81 this year. He's 80 right now. He'll be 81 in September.
I loved everything.
An 81-year-old, Italian man, never went to school in this country, is reading my book. I mean, I thought that was cool.
Everything about that.
Yeah, I thought that was just cool. I'm like, wow, my father's reading my book, right? This is great. He called me afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, John, thank you. It was a good book. I enjoyed it a lot. A couple of the stories he asked me about. I remember this. I remember that. Well." He goes, I hope everybody could follow your rules, because the world will be a better place if they did.
Yeah.
I said, they're not. He goes, no, I know they're not rules. He corrected himself, saying they're not rules, they're pointers. I'm just like they're hey, notice what's happening. He's like, but it's hard. And I said, yes, in the beginning it is. I said, but Dad, with practice, it becomes a lot easier. And then you want to live that way all of a sudden. Like, you're like, why wouldn't I want to?
Yeah.
Why would I want to be trapped in between my ears when I could actually be outside of my ears and just kind of just using this thing as I want? So, like, even seeing, so the point I'm trying to make is even seeing a man, and then we'll cut it short, even seeing a man who's that old, that far in age, where, you know, there's a lot of mental behaviors and behavioral traits that have been ingrained in you, could have that little bit of awareness now to realize, well, there's a better way to be. Like, this resonates with him. So if it resonates with him, you're hoping that with somebody much younger and a much more open mind, because
that's a tough nut to crack.
Yes, that's a tough nut to crack. Where somebody who's a more flexible mind just by nature, because they haven't been, like, you know, packed with all this information yet, so much easier to show them, hey, there's a better way to be.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Good thing we didn't know what we were going to talk about today.
Yeah, we did. Wow, because I can go on. There's a physical aspect that takes place after the mental aspect, and especially being 81, I guarantee you, not that he had any issues, but because I don't know, but your blood pressure's got to be better. Because think about what we do to our physical because of the mental, like.
Oh yeah.
You know,
so there's a definite connection between your body chemistry with your mental approach. Let's just say, right? So mindfulness, by far, it'll keep your blood pressure. I mean, listen, again, there's always going to be genetic problems. If you're prone to high blood pressure, you're prone to. If you're prone to high cholesterol, But so if you have high blood pressure by nature, this is gonna help. It's gonna help it from spiking higher. It's going to help you keep whatever your natural baseline is because of your body chemistry. Like, it's going to help you keep that baseline. You know, like, I notice my resting, and I don't work out much, right? Besides my walks. I notice my resting heart rate's usually 60, 59, 61, 62, which is a very good resting heart rate. I remember when I was back, because I always wear an Apple Watch. I've been wearing one for years. When I was going to therapy, my heart rate was 84, 85, 80.
So like 50% more.
My resting heart rate was 80, 81, 81, 82, 81.
30-something% more.
Always there, because I was just so wound up. Like, I would look at my heart, and I would take my heart rate, and it was 93, 94. Not that I felt anxious, but like my body was just working harder. Now, it feels like it's not working as hard. And like I said, it's not like I'm running marathons. I'm not saying that this is going to cure your physical ailments, but it does have a direct connection.
That's right.
I will say that.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it. Hey, wake up! We're talking to you.
Hello? Hello?
We're talking to you. No, that was great.
All right, so okay, so I think that'll do it for today.
Yeah. And if you're a first-time listener, and this happens to be your first episode, John wraps it up every time with guided meditation.
What a guided meditation! Yeah, we used to do it in the beginning, but we scrapped that. So we'll take it in for a landing. All right. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the show. There was a lot of great things that we spoke about today. Let's just, whether you're seated in a chair, on a couch, wherever you're seated, just try to fix your posture a little bit.
Okay, I will.
And let's start by taking a few deep breaths. And you could do however you feel comfortable. I like to do a 2-second inhale, 2-second hold, and a 2-second exhale. So as I continue talking, just keep that pattern going. By just start with a few deep breaths, and just notice as you're breathing, notice where your focus is going. Your mind's probably very charged right now. If you were listening and kind of engaged in what we were speaking about, there's going to be a lot there's going to be a strong mental charge there. So just notice what's happening in your head. Don't attach to it. No judging, no labeling. We notice it, see what's happening there, and just bring your attention back to your breath. And if you have to keep doing that, that's fine. That's the whole point of the practice. It's noticing those thoughts. Right? People use the visualization of watching it like a cloud floating by. Just notice those thoughts. that are in your mind and bring your attention back to your physical body, whether it's your breathing. If you want to focus on a specific body part or do a body scan, that's fine. I like finding points of tension in the body. A lot of times I don't even realize that I have them when I'm meditating. So if you feel like you're tense in your shoulders, you could just drop them and release them. No judgment of why they were tense, why they were pulled up. Just drop and release. If you feel it in your jaw or in your forehead, just release it. Anywhere you might feel tension in your body right now, just release it and bring your attention back to your breath. Remember, this is just about noticing what's happening. If you feel any discomfort or pain, notice the pain, notice the discomfort. Does not matter. There's no story to it. There's no judgment. There's no label. Just notice it. That noticing is the important part. Let's just try to go that last minute now. We're going to go silent for a minute. Just keep breathing and I'll come back in. Let's take 2 more. And last one, inhale. Hold. Exhale. And there we go. Slowly open your eyes. And again, if you want to sit here for a few more minutes, do it. If you have nowhere that needs, if you have something that does not need to be done immediately, take a few extra minutes here and just enjoy that feeling of peace and calm right now that you might be experiencing. Okay? And that's it.
That's the gold right there.
That's the gold. All right. We will talk to you guys next week. Take care and be well.
Have a good one. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.